Hi guys, welcome to this video on how to create a female trouser pattern for the beginner. This video is particularly for a beginner that is learning how to sew, so I've really simplified it to show you how you can make your trouser pattern. This is for trousers that you can wear with your suit, just like this lady here. The very first thing you're going to need really is your measurements, and I have divided these measurements and tabulated it on how you're going to prepare the measurements, so that when we get to the transferring the measurements to our pattern, there will be no confusion. So get a sheet of paper and do exactly what you see here. Write down all the measurements you're going to take. Write down your own measurements, the ease we are going to use for each measurement, how we are going to divide it, and of course the final measurements we are going to use to create the pattern. For instance, your waist circumference, this is your waist circumference. Take your waist circumference, mine is 98, add an ease of 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch in case you're using inches tape, and then when you do that, you now divide the total by 4. And this is what I got 24, and to this 24 I added 2.5. that is for the darts we are going to take at the waist of the trouser. Your high hips is normally 3 inches below your waist. This is your high hips. So you take this, whatever you get around this your high hip, you add 2.5 plus, then divide it by 4, and you get your final measurement. You do the same thing that I've done with all the measurements. Just look at the illustrations to show you the measurements that you're supposed to take. Now when you come to your I think it's your knee width, you don't measure it at exactly your knees. You measure it about 1 inch above your knee point, about 1 inch above your knee point. That is where you're going to measure the circumference of your knee width on one leg, on one roundabout around here. And once you have that measurement, you add 2 centimeters of ease and then divide everything by 2. This ease is not your sewing seam allowance, it's different. This is just to allow you for flow, for the trouser to fit well in your body or your body shape. So once you've done that and you've gotten all these final measurements, now your crotch depth, I'm going to show you in the next slide how to measure your crotch depth and how to measure your crotch length. So that's exactly what I'm going to show to you in the next slide. This is how to measure your crotch depth. Just sit down on a flat stool and then take your tape from your waist to the stool. That is your crotch depth. And then your crotch length is to measure right from your navel to the base of your waist at the back. That is your crotch length. You could also use this diagram to actually measure, see where to do all your measurements for the trouser. This is also important. The curve, if you want to do it, is okay, but I'm not going to be using it. So these are all the measurements that we are going to be using to create our trouser pattern. So let's go straight to our board and put all these measurements on our pattern paper. So these are the things we are going to need to create our female trouser pant. Of course, you're going to need your measurement sheet written out as I showed you previously. We need our curved rulers. We need our French curve also. We need our straight rulers. And we need our curved ruler to curve for the hip curve for the trouser. We need our tracer to trace the front pattern on another pattern paper. We need our markers, different colors, and of course we need our scissors. And you need 2 pattern papers. I've prepared 2 pattern papers. The length of the pattern paper should be the length of your full trouser plus 10 cm. For instance, my full trouser length is 106 that I'm going to take. So I'll add 10 cm. So from the beginning to the end of this pattern paper is 116 cm. And the width is going to be your full hip measurement circumference divided by 4 plus 10 cm. Full hip divided by 4 plus 10 cm. So that it will give you space to work with it. So that's the size of this pattern paper. So now let's go straight and start our drafting. So we're starting with the front pattern of the trouser. As you can see, I've drawn my necessary lines that you need. This is the starting point. This is my waist line. This is my waist upper hip line. This is my waist to the widest part of my hip line. This is from my waist to crotch line. This, of course, is my waist to knee line. Remember when we were talking about the measurement, my full waist to knee is right here. But I removed 5 centimeters upwards because I'm quite tall. If you're not tall, when you have your full waist to knee measurement, you remove about 2.5 centimeters. That's about 1 inch. But for me, I'm quite tall, so I removed 2 inches, which is 5 centimeters. And of course, I have my waist to my ankle length right there. And of course, I have the seam for the trouser right there. So those are all the lines that you need to be able to start. So once all your lines are set, let us now begin to mark the measurements for the waist, for the hips, and then shape the trouser. So we are going to be using our measurement chart. Remember your measurement chart where you've written all your measurements up to all the final measurements you are going to be using. The very first thing we are going to do, I'm going to mark the hip measurement right there. As long as you have your chart, just follow your chart according to your own measurements. This was my final hip measurement, and that I'm going to mark on the hip line, the crotch line, and the waist line. So I'm going to mark, this is my widest part of my hip. I'm going to mark 32 right there. Higher hip line, 32 again. And of course, my waistline, I'll mark 32. Once we've gotten our 32, 32, 32, 32, we draw a straight line. So the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to shape the waist. And my waist measurement, I have my final waist measurement here is 24 cm plus 2.5. That is for the dart. 2.5 is 1 inch. That is for the dart. That will give me 26.5. And I'm going to measure 26.5 from this line towards this side. So I'll measure 26.5 on the waist line right there. And I have, I think, the same thing here on the upper hip line. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to shape from the waist down to meet up with the hip line. And I'm going to use my hip curve ruler to shape it. So now let's get our crotch curve. To get the crotch curve, remember your hip line. This is my hip line, and my hip line is 32. So this 32, I'm going to divide it by 4. Now divide mine by 4. I have 8 centimeters, and that 8 centimeters I'm going to draw from this line. Hope you're seeing me. From this line to add the 8 centimeters. And then on the hip line, I'm going to make a mark of about 1.5 centimeters. 1.5 centimeters, or about 0.5 inches. 1.5. And then on the cross line, I am going to draw a diagonal of 4 centimeters. Just look at the way I place my ruler. Diagonally 4 meters. I'll just make a dot there. Four centimeters. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to form my crotch. I'm going to curve it using my curve ruler like so, up to here. So now we've gotten the curve of the front. This is the front pattern. Now we are going to be shaping the leg of our trouser. The very first thing you need to do is to measure your cross length. This is my cross line, remember? And my cross line is 41 centimeters. 41 centimeters. At this cross line, you're going to find the center part. For me, the center is 20.5 cm. And I'm going to mark the 20.5 cm line. I'll mark it on the cross line. I will mark it on the thigh line. Your thigh is about 7.5 centimeters below your cross line. I didn't mention it. 7.5 centimeters below your cross line, or 3 inches below your cross line. So on this line, I'm also going to mark the center. That is 20.5. And on the knee line, I'm also going to mark the same 20.5. Then I'm going to draw a line at that center point from the waist down to the ankle. So my center line is ready. I've drawn it, see, from the waist right down to the end of the trouser length. So it is on this center line that we are going to be using as an anchor point to be able to shape our trouser. So I'm going to start first with my thigh line, and my thigh circumference is 64 plus 2.5 is divided by 2, and that is 33. So I'm going to get 33 on my tape, 33 centimeters on my tape. I'll get 33 centimeters on my tape, and I'll just fold it like so. Then this center place, I'm going to place it on the center line where I have my thigh line. This is my thigh line. So I'm going to place it like so. Place it on my thigh line and then mark it Hope you've seen what I've done. And that's exactly what I'm going to do for the knee line and of course the ankle, so that we can now shape our trouser. I've marked all the points, the thigh line, the knee line, and of course the ankle. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to be joining all my points to curve the trouser, and I'm going to be using my curved ruler. So I'm going to curve it from the hip and join it up to the knee line to get my curve. I'll do the same thing for underneath. I'll join all the dots. Hope you're seeing what I'm doing. So I'm going to draw a straight line up to the ankle, where I also have the measurement of my ankle circumference divided by 2. Essentially, you can see the trouser has taken shape. That's the trouser. I've shaped it down to the ankle. It has been shaped, as you can see. That is the full trouser length. Now, at this bottom, remember that my trouser, this is exactly my trouser length. This is the end of my trouser length. This is the seam allowance. So what we'll do, you will not draw it straight. You will just fold it at the end here, inwards. We fold it like so. And then we'll use the tracing wheel and just trace this a little bit, just to make a mark for where we are going to draw. Like so. And then turn it over. Then use your ruler and follow the tracing mark and just draw it to join the end of the same line. So that is how you're going to fold the bottom of your trouser to meet your lining. You're going to be lining the trouser. That's exactly how it's going to be. As you can see, it's not exactly straight. What we are going to do next is to put our darts for the trouser. Remember that we added 2.5 cm for the dart at the waist, and that's exactly what we are going to be removing here. So I'm going to remove 1.25 cm from one side and 1.25 cm from one side. And my dart length is going to be about 2.5, 2.5, that is 5. It's going to be about 14 centimeters long. That's about 5 inches long. So I put in my darts. As you can see, that's the darts for the front trouser, and the front trouser is ready. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to trace this front trouser using my tracing wheel onto another pattern paper, so that we can start with the back part of the trouser. If you have any challenge, just listen to the video once again. I think I'm being as slow as I can. I think it's quite simple. So once you listen to it once again, you follow it. Let's now trace this and then start with the back part of the trouser. So I've transferred the front trouser pattern onto another pattern paper, and you can see I've transferred all the lines: the waistline, the higher hip line, the hip line, the crotch line, the thigh line, and of course the knee line. What you're going to do now straight away is to form the curve for the back trouser. And to do that, First, you find the center between the center of this this grain line, and of course this is our curve, this line, and the center for me is 6 because it's 12 here. From here to here is 12 cm, so I'm going to mark 6 cm right there. Okay, and then I'm going to add 2 cm at the crotch part of the front. I'll add 2 cm, 5 centimeters rather. 5 centimeters, that is 2 inches. So I'm going to curve it down to 2 inches, draw it like so. And then at that point, I hope you're seeing what I'm doing. At that point, I'll come down by 1.3 cm. That's about half an inch. Good. Now, remember the center point we made here? Now the center point we made here. We are going to extend this center point according to the equivalence of this length of the curve of the crotch of the front trouser. And for me, my length is 8 centimeters. So I'm going to bring that 8 centimeters right here. So I'll draw line my 8 centimeters and I'll mark it right there. And then to get this curve, the back curve, this back curve, I'm going to do just like we did for the front. I'm going to measure out 5 centimeters from this point upwards. I get 5 centimeters out and I'll mark it. So I'm now going to curve the back crotch from that point here, right here, curve it to this point, then curve it up to this point. So that's the curve. That's the curve. I use the red marker to show you the curve. I've joined all the dots together to get my back curve. Now I'm going to draw my waist for the back. Remember, my waist line was 26 cm, and I'm just going to place my ruler and draw my 26 cm right from that dot up there down to the waistline. Now that I'm done with the waistline, the next thing is to establish the curve for the back part of the trouser. What I'm going to do, I'm going to be taking 2.5 centimeters from the higher hip line, 2.5 from the hip line, 2.5 centimeters from the crotch line, 2.5 centimeters from the thigh line, and of course 2.5 centimeters from the knee line, and 2.5 centimeters from the ankle line. I'll do the same thing on this side. So I'll quickly do that and then I'll join all the dots so that we get our curve. So once you're done with marking all round, we'll now draw the curve just like we did for the front trouser. As you can see, I've joined 2.5 centimeters all round, and I've joined all the dots together. This is what it looks like now. Your trouser should be looking like this, your pattern now. So the next thing is to do the darts for the back. We are going to measure the line here. It's 26, that's my waistline for the back, and then find the center. For me, the center is 13, and then draw a line parallel to this line, 13, and that is where we're going to do our darts. Remember, my dart is 2.5 centimeters, so I'm going to take 1.25 in between. 1.25, 1.25, and I'm going to mark it right here. And that is going to be my darts for the back part. And I'm going to take, sorry, the length of my dart is about 13 centimeters. Normally take between 12 and 14, but I'll take 13. I took 13 for the front, and I'll also take 13 for the back. So I'm going to form my darts. I will just draw my lines like so. And that is the back part of our trouser. I don't normally put seam allowance on my patterns. What I do the seam when I'm cutting the dress. I just mark my seam allowance on the dress, and then I cut it directly. So the back pattern is ready. I have labeled it. I always remind you, label your patterns, written my name, and I've written that is the back pattern for my trouser. I'll go ahead and cut it out, and also cut out the front pattern of the trouser. And the next thing we'll do is to do the band for the trouser, and of course the zip flap. So right now we are back with the front pattern of our trouser, and we're going to be creating the zipper fly. That is quite easy to do. All you have to do is to measure about 4.5 or 5 centimeters of your tape at this your waist point, and then come down to where the curve starts. This particular place where the curve starts, measure the same 5 or 4.5, it depends on the one you're using. Measure that, and then you use your ruler and just draw the 2 points to meet together. As I said, it's quite easy to do. Join your 2 points together, and then from here just curve it. You can do a hand curve, just curve it to meet that point, or you can use your curved ruler if you want, but a hand curve for me is okay. So that is your zipper fly. It's quite easy to do, as I said before. Now I have also cut out my waistband. For your waistband, I just cut about 5 centimeters width, and the length is your waist length plus an extra 5 centimeters. This is to make up for the allowance that you will put either your hook or your buttons. So that's it with the band. That's your zipper fly, and that is your band. And so guys, our patterns are ready. That is the front part of the trouser pattern. That's the front part, and this here is the band for the waist, and then you have the back part of our trouser pattern. With this, I have come to the end of this video, and I hope that your pattern turned out as beautiful looking as mine. If you have any challenge, just watch the video several times, or you could drop me a question in the comment section, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching. Until my next video.